When's the last time you reinvented the wheel on something? Took a completely different way to school or work, tried a fresh angle on an activity you do on the regular, really made an effort to innovate on something you do. Probably a good while for most, and it's okay. We're creatures of habit after all. I know some of y'all out there wake up at 7 a.m. every morning renewed from the spite of your enemies, drink a half gallon of Sunny D in Tampa Co, and terrorize your local communities. Most of y'all I won't judge, but you menaces there, I will never stop judging. But you know who really makes an effort to innovate in what they do? Tango Gameworks. I don't think there are many studios who are more committed to true creativity than them in the history of gaming. I mean, from refurbishing the essence of a then-stale subgenre, to laying foundations that take the industry up levels in their execution, to stealth-dropping one of the most vibrant and fun games of the past decade, and pulling a whole Jon Snow cycle through it all. Tango is one of the most distinct studios to ever do it. From influence to impact to acclaim, they've had a hand in some really dope things we've seen over the years. And it's not just me who believes they got something special. Their own parent company, Krafton, came out with a statement to back Tango, their legacy, and their creative abilities to develop great experiences with them despite the drive to push their profits. That's really saying something, especially in a time where being formulaic and sticking to the next great trend for cash is the directive for many of these companies. Krafton trusts them, and both sides of the gaming industry revere them. And I want to break down how they blazed their trail up to now, why they stand down the industry to me, and why they represent something in gaming that should be protected at all costs. So sit back, relax, and take a trip with yours truly as we break this down, starting with a little history lesson on how they got to where they are today. And to kick off in the right spot, we got to take you way back to when Tango was just a twinkle in someone's eye. Now, back in the before times, aka 1990, some kid who recently graduated from college in Japan saw some job fare with free food involved and did what any sensible person here would do. Go in that joint mainly to get your place of food and just vibe afterwards. Little did he know that the fare would set him on a big path, as conversation with two game companies turned to applications, applications turned to interviews, and interviews turned into a rejection, which turned into an acceptance about a week later. Off the rip at his new job, he was challenged to think deeply about game design by his superiors, and within months, he was leading a team in development. Early efforts on his first project, which was a quiz game, and Disney tie-in titles like Aladdin and Goof Troop for the Super NES got his feet wet and ready to expand into more. And if you didn't know by now, the company he got his start in was none other than Capcom. And that kid looking for food was none other than Shinji Mikami. Side note, if you did get this off the rip, pause this video and go sign up to be on Jeopardy, man. You need to lock in. Anywho, Mr. Mikami was on to bigger and better things after the Disney games, as he was given the reins to develop an experience that was originally supposed to be a remake of an older game and film called Sweet Home. And funny enough, Sweet Home was a horror IP, and Shinji hated being scared, so he was pretty hesitant to jump into the project full body. He just like me for real! But his mentor, Takura Fujiwara, knew he had what it takes to make something really frightening. So you take Mikami's horror knowledge, his utter disappointment at an Italian zombie flick, and a good team around him, and you got a pretty decent game that was titled Resident Evil. Yeah, I think that was it. All right, I undersold that. Come on, y'all. This man is the father of Resident Evil. The Resident Evil. The game that was one of the PlayStation's first ever certified hits. The game that birthed an entire genre as the first coined survival horror in history. The game that indirectly made my boy Iroh buy like 12 versions of Resident Evil 4. It is that serious. Resident Evil was obviously divergent, game-changing, and in this context, a sign of things to come as the mentality behind Mikami's development DNA came into its own. Post RE1, Mikami went on a pretty modest run, going on to have some input and general oversight on games like Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, Dino Crisis, Devil May Cry, all while feeling at a low point due to not being 100% hands-on with the day-to-day direction of those titles. He hated business meetings too. He really liked me for real. After some restructuring at Capcom, Resident Evil 0 underwhelming a bit, Mikami was like, let me lock in, and this man goes on another directing run. Resident Evil 4, masterminded development and revolutionized the gaming space again. God hand. Joins Creativity Lever Studio, aka Clover, and helps pour into an underrated banger. Say what you want, that shit was fun. Then joined Seeds Inc., which was ironically the early seed that would bloom into Platinum Games and ended up directing Vanquish, where Mikami again influenced the scene at large with the game's movement and cover systems. I hope you're noticing the theme here. With Vanquish done, Mikami sent his troops over to fully push the Bayonetta project that longtime friend and studio mate Hideki Kamiya was leading, and laid in wait with no other creative endeavors on his hands. A creative powerhouse and a rich track record of innovation and quality, back to business meetings alone. So you better believe he was ready to take control of his future yet again. And from that twinkle in Mikami's eye to a full-fledged studio with himself and 12 developers in 2010, Tango Gameworks was born. They had a couple of preliminary things cooking, but business really began to pick up as they got acquired by Bethesda and ZeniMax in the first couple months of their existence. From there, plans changed and attention swung to a return to survival horror after Mikami looked at the landscape he created and was disappointed with the recent prospects. He couldn't stay away from his baby for too long, and along came a new series called The Evil Within, which was coincidentally his first and last ride working within the director's chair for a game project at Tango. In time, The Evil Within got its love, and from there, the shift behind the scenes started to take place. This definitely comes into play later, but Tango's DNA persisted as new faces and developers started to get more responsibility, and Mikami became more of a guiding hand in the process. Tango's next project, The Evil Within 2, boasted a wave of new faces on the front lines, like director John Johannes, writer and future contributor to Persona 5 Tactics Seoji Ishimine, and more. Post Evil Within 2, Tango followed their path and committed to a full gear switch to work on a brand new game with a new face in Akumi Nakamura to lead the charge as creative director for the first half of the project entitled Ghostwire Tokyo. From third-person survival horror to first-person action adventure with some horror sprinkled on top. And after that game drops, they pull up with another gear switch, going from first-person action adventure to third-person rhythm action with bright colors, style, and flair in Hi-Fi Rush. A surprise drop, a critical delight, and again, a complete deviation from what everyone knew Tango for in the gaming space. Things felt really high after the reception of Hi-Fi Rush, but we gotta remember you can't get too comfortable with Tango, because not even a month after the game's surprise release, Shinji Mikami gave notice that he would be leaving the studio in a few months. In some parts it felt shocking, but the closer you look, it kind of felt like T'Challa's father in Black Panther feeling calm because he knew he prepared his kids for the time he had to hit that ancestral plane. Through his efforts and his proteges, he felt that the time was right to let them fly on and for him to take on a different creative challenge. The team was prepared, Mikami was pleased, and things looked up for Tango. Until they were looking up from a shallow grave because Xbox murdered the entire studio out of nowhere in 2024. Poof, pow, they were gone in a flash, and there was no sound logic really given outside of, we gotta save money for this Activision deal somewhere, dog. And this went down about as well as you'd think. The masses expressed shock, outrage, confusion, and even Mikami himself thought Tango were in a good standing as he was out the door. In a flash, we lost a really great studio with no hope to ever return. Is what I would say if South Korean game giant Krafton didn't pull a full Mickey Mouse in Kingdom Hearts 2 and acquire Tango and half the scattered talent roster to continue their work and build more dope shit. Now, people were obviously pissed about Tango's untimely shutdown and just as ecstatic that Krafton revived it. But why? Was it down to the impact and recency with Hi-Fi Rush and the momentum that it built? Was it just Xbox fans getting heated at decision makers for getting rid of such a key studio for development in the East? I think those things are a factor, but the main why behind this level of support for Tango, at least for me, is bigger than that. To me, Tango represents true creative flexibility and expression in the modern day of gaming. In an age where hero shooters, live services, and pushes for the sameness others succeed with in AAA experiences today pervade, Tango is a beacon of difference and creativity. Again, they stand in rarefied air as one of the bravest and most creatively flexible studios we've ever seen. I mean, it's in their blood. Before Tango was established, Shinji Mikami made his career from making magic off of the beaten path. From Resident Evil to God Hand to Vanquish, and that spirit flowed right into Tango as they jumped from Evil Within to Ghostwire to Hi-Fi Rush, and likely some of the things we'll see from them in the future. They take risks. They change their formula to bring something engaging and distinct for players almost every time out, and that mentality has brought them high regard across all of their track record. In this space, delivering a quality product that is such a far cry from your bread and butter deserves immense praise. Most times, the powers that be in gaming won't allow that because profit margins are their chief priority, with everything else falling underneath. Tango dares to do different, dares to be different, and that sentiment radiates in everything they make. For that work, for that approach, and for being one of the symbols of that spirit, Tango Gameworks forever stands as one of the most creative outfits that has graced gaming. I just hope that their efforts and what they represent are protected and enjoyed by gamers everywhere, as well as championed in this space. And I hope the future direction of gaming adds them as an inspiration and reference to push more outside the box, away from the norm and towards the creativity that fuels experiences gamers are clamoring for deep down. So dance on, Tango. Keep dancing on. Hey, good people of the internet, hope you enjoyed that video right there. If you did, make sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell, and run to the comment section and give me your thoughts about this topic. Tango's hopefully on to bigger and better things, but I fear AAA gaming as a whole isn't 100% guaranteed to follow suit. If you want to hear more on that, make sure you check out my video here on why it needs to change. And with that being said, I am just about out of time here, but don't trip. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.